In early Islam, leadership was conceived as a sacred trust, a responsibility bestowed upon those most qualified to guide the community. It was meant to be earned through demonstrable piety, wisdom, and a deep commitment to justice, not inherited through bloodlines or familial connections. The early leaders, the Rashidun caliphs, were chosen for their merits, their closeness to the Prophet Muhammad, and their unwavering dedication to the principles of Islam. But Mu'awiya, the first Umayyad caliph, a shrewd and ambitious politician, changed everything. He ushered in a new era, one where political power and dynastic ambitions began to overshadow the spiritual foundations of the caliphate. He wanted his son Yazid, a man of questionable character in the eyes of many, to succeed him, establishing a hereditary dynasty that would forever alter the course of Islamic history. This decision was a radical departure, breaking with the long-standing tradition of choosing leaders for their piety, wisdom, and commitment to the well-being of the Muslim community. The concept of, or consultation, which had been central to the selection of previous caliphs, was effectively sidelined. Yazid was infamous for his indulgence, his love of worldly pleasures, and a lifestyle that seemed far removed from the asceticism and devotion expected of a leader in the Islamic tradition. His reign was marked by a perceived lack of spiritual depth, a stark contrast to the revered figures who had come before him. Many questioned his suitability to lead the Muslim world. These qualities horrified many in Medina and Mecca, the two holiest cities in Islam, where the memory of the Prophet and the values he espoused were still deeply cherished. They saw Yazid's ascension as a betrayal of those values. Mu'awiya, aware of the potential for opposition, spent his final years carefully laying the groundwork for his son's succession. He embarked on a campaign, systematically forcing the empire's elite, including governors, tribal leaders, and influential figures, to pledge allegiance to Yazid as his successor. This was achieved through a combination of shrewd diplomacy, strategic alliances, and, when necessary, the use of threats and bribes to ensure compliance. Most, faced with the overwhelming power of the Umayyad dynasty, reluctantly complied, prioritizing political stability and self-preservation over their reservations about Yazid's character. But a few, driven by their conscience and a deep sense of religious duty, refused to legitimize what they saw as an unjust succession. Among them was Husayn ibn Ali, the Prophet's own grandson, a figure of immense spiritual significance and moral authority. For Husayn, accepting Yazid as the rightful caliph was not simply a political matter, it was a profound moral and spiritual dilemma. To him, it meant betraying everything his grandfather, the Prophet Muhammad, had stood for: justice, equality, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. When Mu'awiya finally died after years of consolidating his power and securing his son's future, the stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. Yazid, now the self-proclaimed caliph, wasted no time in asserting his authority. He immediately demanded allegiance from Husayn and other prominent figures who had previously resisted his father's pressure. The order was clear and unequivocal: submit to Yazid's rule or face the dire consequences, including death. The governor of Medina, a man named Walid ibn Utbah, found himself in a difficult position. He hesitated to harm a member of the Prophet's family, recognizing the potential for widespread outrage and rebellion. This hesitation provided Husayn with a crucial window of opportunity, giving him a chance to escape the city before he could be apprehended and forced to pledge allegiance. Under cover of night, shrouded in secrecy, and accompanied by a small band of loyal followers, Husayn made his escape, fleeing to Mecca, the holiest city in Islam, seeking sanctuary from Yazid's oppressive regime, and hoping to rally support for his cause. The stage was now irrevocably set for a confrontation, a clash between two opposing visions of Islam and leadership. This confrontation would not only determine the fate of Husayn and his followers, but would also change the course of Islamic history forever, leaving an indelible mark on the Muslim world. Yazid's relentless quest for power, his disregard for established traditions, and his insistence on hereditary succession had already begun to fracture the fragile unity of the Muslim world. The caliphate, once seen as a sacred trust held by the community as a whole, a symbol of unity and shared purpose, it was now being transformed into a dynasty, a kingdom ruled by a single family, with power passed down through bloodlines rather than earned through merit. The seeds of division were sown deep, planted in the fertile ground of resentment and disillusionment, and the consequences of this shift in power, this departure from the principles of early Islam, would prove to be catastrophic, unleashing a wave of conflict and turmoil that would reverberate through the centuries. Husayn's refusal to pledge allegiance to Yazid was not just an act of personal defiance, a rejection of an unjust ruler. It was a powerful stand for principle, a testament to the enduring values of justice, truth, and the unwavering commitment to upholding the integrity of Islam. The Muslim world watched with bated breath as the crisis deepened, unsure of what the future held and fearful of the consequences that lay ahead. The fate of the caliphate, and in the eyes of many, the very soul of Islam, hung precariously in the balance, teetering on the edge of a precipice, with the future of the Muslim community hanging in the balance. In Mecca, Husayn, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, received urgent pleas from Kufa. The letters, penned with desperation and hope, painted a grim picture of oppression and injustice. The people of Kufa begged him to lead them against Yazid's tyranny, a rule they deemed illegitimate and unbearable. They yearned for a leader who embodied the values of justice and righteousness. Encouraged by these fervent appeals, Husayn, ever cautious, sent his trusted cousin Muslim ibn Aqil as his emissary to assess the true situation on the ground in Kufa. He needed to verify the sincerity and strength of their support. At first, Muslims' arrival was met with overwhelming enthusiasm. Thousands in Kufa flocked to pledge their support to Husayn, promising to stand by him against Yazid's oppressive regime. The city buzzed with anticipation and hope for a better future. But the tide soon turned. Yazid, alerted to the growing unrest, swiftly appointed a new governor, the ruthless Ibn Ziyad, to Kufa. Ibn Ziyad wasted no time in crushing the burgeoning movement with a campaign of terror, intimidation, and public executions. Muslim ibn Aqil, betrayed and abandoned by many who had sworn allegiance, was captured and brutally killed, a stark warning to anyone who dared to challenge Yazid's authority. The promises of Kufa, once so vibrant and full of hope, vanished like a mirage in the desert, leaving behind only fear and disillusionment. The city fell silent, its spirit broken. Tragically unaware of the devastating turn of events in Kufa, Husayn, driven by his sense of duty and the pleas he had received, set out for Kufa, believing he was answering a genuine call for help. He embarked on this perilous journey with his family, including women and children, and a small but fiercely loyal group of companions, all prepared to face whatever lay ahead. Despite receiving warnings of betrayal and the dangers that awaited him in Kufa, Husayn, resolute in his convictions, pressed on, his commitment to justice unwavering. He refused to legitimize Yazid's rule by turning back, believing that silence in the face of injustice was a betrayal of his principles and his grandfather's legacy. On the desolate plain of Karbala, a place that would forever be etched in the annals of history, Husayn's small caravan was intercepted and surrounded by Yazid's formidable army, a force vastly superior in numbers and resources. Completely surrounded and cruelly cut off from access to water, a precious commodity in the arid desert, Husayn's group, including women and children, endured days of agonizing thirst, deprivation, and mounting fear, their resilience tested to its absolute limit. On the 10th day of Muharram, a day known as Ashura, Husayn, in a final act of defiance and compassion, pleaded for mercy, reminding the enemy that he was the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, a figure revered by all Muslims. He appealed to their sense of humanity and justice, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. The response from Yazid's army was merciless and brutal. The ensuing massacre, a horrific act of violence and bloodshed, left Husayn, his family, and his loyal companions dead on the battlefield of Karbala, their sacrifice a testament to their unwavering commitment to justice and truth. The tragedy of Karbala, a story of courage, sacrifice, and unwavering faith, became a powerful symbol of resistance against tyranny and oppression for generations to come. Husayn's ultimate sacrifice, his refusal to compromise his principles, would echo through the corridors of time, inspiring countless individuals to stand up for what is right, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Yazid's military victory, though decisive on the battlefield, was ultimately hollow and meaningless. The true defeat, the moral condemnation, belonged to him, forever tarnishing his legacy in the eyes of history. The blood spilled on the sands of Karbala stained his rule forever, a permanent mark of injustice and cruelty that could never be erased. The news of the massacre at Karbala sent shockwaves throughout the Muslim world, shaking the very foundations of the community and sparking widespread outrage and grief. The story of Karbala, a testament to the power of faith and the importance of standing up for justice, became a powerful rallying cry for those who sought to challenge oppression and injustice wherever it existed. Husayn's courageous stand, his unwavering commitment to his principles, would never be forgotten. His memory forever enshrined in the hearts of those who value justice and freedom. The deep wound inflicted upon the Muslim community by the tragedy of Karbala would never fully heal, a constant reminder of the cost of injustice and the importance of unity in the face of adversity. News of Karbala's horror spread rapidly, carried by those who had witnessed the unspeakable events, igniting outrage and fury in Medina. The city, heartbroken and now absolutely furious, expelled Yazid's officials without hesitation, and declared open rebellion against his rule. Yazid responded swiftly with brutal force, sending a massive, well-equipped Syrian army under the command of Muslim ibn Uqba. Medina's defenders, comprised mostly of civilians, were quickly and brutally overwhelmed. The city was then subjected to 3 long days of unrestrained pillage and unspeakable atrocity. The sanctity and peace of the Prophet's city was utterly shattered. The mosque of the Prophet itself was desecrated, and countless innocent men, women, and children were mercilessly killed or violated. The remaining survivors were forced to submit to Yazid as subjugated slaves, not free citizens. The horrific sack of Medina left a deep and unhealing scar on the collective Muslim psyche. Yazid's legitimacy and authority were irrevocably destroyed in the eyes of many Muslims. The profound trauma of Medina's fall would forever haunt the pages of Islamic history. The caliphate's already fragile moral authority was now completely in ruins. Yazid's reign was now permanently synonymous with unspeakable sacrilege and unparalleled brutality. With Medina devastated, the Umayyad caliphate seemed unstoppable. Their armies had crushed the rebellion in the Prophet's city, leaving a trail of destruction and despair. Only Mecca, the spiritual heart of Islam, remained defiant, standing as a beacon of resistance under the leadership of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. He refused to yield, his determination fueled by the outrage over the desecration of Medina. Yazid, determined to crush the last vestige of dissent, dispatched his army south, a formidable force marching relentlessly across the arid landscape. Their mission was clear: to bring Mecca to its knees. They arrived at the sacred city and began laying siege to the holiest city in Islam, a move that shocked the Muslim world and threatened to tear the very fabric of their faith. Catapults, instruments of war and destruction, were positioned around Mecca, ready to unleash their deadly payload. Stones and fire were hurled into Mecca, a rain of destruction falling upon the sacred ground. The Umayyad army showed no restraint, violating its sacred sanctuary, a place that had been revered for centuries as a haven of peace and spiritual reflection. The unthinkable happened, a moment that would forever be etched in the collective memory of the Muslim world. The Kaaba, the most sacred site in Islam, was struck by the siege weaponry and set ablaze, its black cloth catching fire. The house of God, draped in black, a symbol of reverence and spiritual significance, burned as horrified onlookers watched, their hearts filled with disbelief and despair at the desecration of their holiest site. The black stone, a revered relic embedded in the Kaaba, fractured under the intense heat and impact, and the city was left in ruins, a testament to the destructive power of war and the devastating consequences of religious conflict. In the midst of this sacrilege, as the flames still flickered and the smoke filled the air, news arrived. Yazid was dead, a twist of fate that would dramatically alter the course of the conflict. The siege, which had seemed relentless and unstoppable, suddenly collapsed, its purpose and momentum lost with the death of the caliph. The battered city was left to mourn its losses, to rebuild its shattered walls and to grapple with the profound implications of the events that had unfolded. Shortly after the siege, Yazid died suddenly in Damascus, leaving the empire in chaos and his legacy in ruins, forever tarnished by the events in Mecca and Medina. Yazid's assault on Mecca, a desperate attempt to assert his authority, marked the lowest point of his rule, a moment of profound misjudgment that would ultimately contribute to his downfall. He had attacked the Prophet's family, a grave offense in the eyes of many Muslims, the Prophet's city, a place of immense historical and spiritual significance, and now God's own house, the Kaaba, the very center of the Islamic faith. His legitimacy, already weakened by the events at Karbala, was utterly destroyed, leaving him isolated and vulnerable. The Muslim world was left in shock and grief, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of the sacrilege that had been committed. The caliphate's unity, already strained by internal divisions and political rivalries, was shattered beyond repair, paving the way for further conflict and fragmentation. Yazid's reign left a permanent scar on Islam. His brutality at Karbala, Medina and Mecca shattered the unity of the Muslim world. For Shia Muslims, Yazid is the ultimate villain, Husayn, the eternal martyr. Every year, Husayn's sacrifice is mourned as a symbol of justice against oppression. Among Sunnis, Yazid is widely condemned as a corrupt and illegitimate ruler. His rule is remembered as a cautionary tale of lost spiritual leadership. The events of his reign created a lasting divide in Islam. Husayn's legacy outshone Yazid's power. Yazid is remembered as a tyrant, Husayn as a beacon of integrity. The shadow of Yazid endures, but so does the light of Husayn's stand.